Hello, witches. I'm sorry about the light today. I don't really know what I can do about it. It's very dark outside. Um, and yeah, all of my lights are on. I'm not quite sure how to adjust anything, so you'll have to bear with for that. I thought I would do a video on some of my favourite things moving into the witches' new year. Obviously we've just had Samhain and it can be that point of starting again, but I think it would be nice to look back as well and just see what it was that I was doing and what I was enjoying. And some of you might like to try these things. Hold on a mo. Can you have... Oh, still recording. Hold on. Apologies for that. That was my little one coming in. So yeah, I thought you guys might like to try out some of these things potentially, or might give you some ideas. I know I always like watching other people's favourite witchy things. So the first thing I wanted to share is this. It's currently pretty empty, so I need a new one. But I don't know if you can read the label properly. It's called Dream, and it's a lucid dream formula by Anima Mundi Apothecary. I will leave the link below for that. It is quite expensive, but I found it's really worthwhile. Although it is obviously suggested and handcrafted to induce lucid dreaming, I've also found it incredibly useful for journeying and for vision work. I assume that certain parts of the brain that are triggered within sleep and lucid dream are also triggered within the journeying and vision work that we do. I have looked it up and I can't pinpoint it because obviously there's not been very many studies on witches. But it's sold as a pituitary tonic, a hypothalamic regulator, a nervous system soother, which is really important for me because I really actually struggle with nerve problems. I have nerve damage down my right side, and sometimes when journeying I can actually find that it can get slightly aggravated, and this really helps to soothe it. It's a dream tonic, insomnia's antidote, and also a relaxant. As someone who does struggle to calm down and get into that space sometimes, I can get very wound up. And I find it's very useful for almost easing transitions. So although I can journey without it easily, I find that it almost just smooths things over and eases you in across the hedge, really. I also find that my visions happen more quickly during trance whilst using it. It contains, gosh, I'm going to be awful at pronouncing these, so I apologise in advance. Ashwagandha, I think, ashwagandha, passion flower, kava, skullcap, blue lotus, kalea, ginger, rose geranium, rose petals, and then the base of it is vegetable glycerin and cane spirits. Now, it's worth mentioning as well that I have researched these herbs. I've made sure that, as far as I'm aware, they're not going to adversely affect me with my issues or my medication. Obviously, many people would say if you're on any medication at all, don't take it. So if you're unsure, it's best avoiding things you take orally, but also sometimes the balms and things that you can buy. Sarah Ann Lawless obviously is the most famous one, and I do have her mandrake root, which I use and find very helpful. However, I find that due to a lower body weight, I actually need less than the average person, and so it's really important that I started with that small amount. And I would say even with something like this, which Kava, there can be issues with it within the UK, so I don't know what the regulations would be on selling it within the UK, but I certainly have ordered it several times with no issues. However, yeah, I started off with a very small amount, and then increased up to the amount that I felt worked best, and that's always worth doing, and particularly important if you're working with anything that is said to be, you know, a poisonous or toxic plant. Obviously, amounts differ for each person, and no plant is fully bad. They all have their uses, really. So yes, I don't particularly enjoy the flavour of it, I must say. It's not it's very herbally flavour, but to me that doesn't matter because I'm taking it for a purpose. I'm not taking it, you know, I'm not adding it to my cocktail to have a little party in the evening and relax. I'm taking it for a purpose. So yes, I will leave the link for that below. I always do a lot of work with crystals, and I haven't got it with me, but I have been using lepidolite. As someone with mental health issues, I found it works very well to balance me. I only started working with it relatively recently, but I have noticed a difference in myself. Often I struggle around this time of year, and so I've really been trying a lot of different things. And that was one of them has really helped. It's also helped with family tension, which there's been a lot of recently. So yeah, that's been good. I've been wearing it as a pendant against my skin. It's just one of those little, you know, the little sort of pointed ones that you can buy. I've also been finding that Duracell quartz has been a big one for me. I use it when journeying, but I also use it on a daily basis and carry it with me. I actually carry 3 crystals with me. I'll go into them one by one. So we've got Duracell quartz, purple agate, and rainbow aura quartz, which actually came in a moon box, and I'll talk more about that one in a minute. But Duracell quartz, I bought these for my son to help just soften the edges of his harder parts of his personality, because he's an Aries, and so he can be very feisty and headstrong. And yes, I know that he has had sharing issues with friends at home. For me as a Libra, I never had those issues particularly, and so I just wanted to give him a little bit of help because I think it's very important. So he has one in his nursery bag, he has one in his bed, and he also has one that he can just sort of play with round about the house. It's said to help communication, has a gentle calming energy. It can help with energy healing, clarity of feeling, and it has a unique ability to cleanse and circulate energy, so that self-healing is possible. I found that it helps with my clarity of thinking. It calms any frustration really that I'm feeling. It can really help with that. It's a very, it allows you, or it allows me to open emotionally and be vulnerable and yet feel safe, and that's such an important thing, I feel, particularly for self-healing. Now, I've also found that it really helps with the clarity of my visions, with being able to keep that focused mind whilst going into a journey, because obviously you need a lot of focus to be able to do journey work. in my opinion. And yeah, that I think this has been a very, very important stone to me. It's almost like a misty. It's not cloudy, but it's almost misty. And it just, yeah, you can see the light reflection is different to that of clear quartz. It's also known as girasol opal. Girasol is spelled Girasol. And yes, it's also known as the girasol opal, so you may find it listed under that name if you're looking to purchase it. The next one is rainbow aura quartz. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any of the kinds of colours. You can't really see. This is a very rough piece. I don't think you're going to be able to see that, are you? It is something which I never personally considered working with, because I was a bit snobby about crystals which had influence put so strongly on them by man. So things fused, things created in a lab, things like that. Something didn't sit right with me. But I actually received it in a moon box. I subscribed to 2 moon boxes. Well, my husband kindly subscribed to them for me as gifts, and oh, it's wonderful. It's totally wonderful and so exciting when they arrive. I've got one to open this morning actually, which I'll be using parts of tomorrow, but I often save things for when I feel the right time is. So this came in a moon box, and when I started to use it, I actually found that it really connected well with me. And I know that the Deviant Witch, or I think it was actually Deviant Witchery, but it will now be under the Deviant Witch, because I believe that Michael has sort of merged the different channels to be one. If you haven't watched any of his videos, go look him up. He's fantastic, as is Melissa the Mystic, who's been on with him and done a lot of them together. And oh, I'm so sorry, I've forgotten the other guy's name, but they are absolutely fantastic and they give out really good information. Now, yes, so he did a series on integrating the witch into daily life, which I thought was a fascinating and really good idea. And obviously, you're not a witch part-time. It's not something which you can turn on and off as such, but some people do struggle to connect with it on a daily basis. Now, I don't particularly struggle to connect with it on a daily basis. However, I've actually really found that this has really brought my witch side forward all of the time. It's helped me to be aware of energy almost all the time. It's just almost brought this power, added a power behind my inner witch, if you like. That's been really helpful. And you know, it looks beautiful, of course. I do find that the energy is different. I don't know how exactly to describe the difference. Perhaps the difference between herbal medicine and pharmaceutical drugs. So a pharmaceutical drug is, if you like, a compound. So I'll start off with a herbal medicine is several compounds all together, you know, all joined as one, if you like, but several different things that will work together, that will interact. Now, a pharmaceutical drug is one of those compounds taken out and focused on and increased and given at a certain dosage, which is obviously a very unnatural way to use it, and it's got this pharmaceutical drugs have this almost like boom, clear, one-way feeling about them. You know, it's straight on. There's no sort of all-encompassed feeling about it. It's just boom, straight to the target. And that's kind of how I feel about this. Another example, I guess, would be the difference between a you probably haven't been on opiate painkillers, but the difference between something like morphine and tramadol, where the effects are with tramadol very arrow-like, I suppose. It's the morphine may make you dreamy, floaty, hallucinate, all of that. Tramadol, just boom, you get the tiredness, that's it. There's no happy feeling, there's no dreamy feeling. It's just boom, one effect, really. And at the same time, this sort of crystal is very like that. It's just it's more of a shaft rather than different bits entwining. Anyway, I'll stop babbling on. I don't know if any of that made sense, but I hope that some of it sort of did. Anyway, I use this for astral journeys, for integrating my witch self. It can be useful in clarifying your life path, and I have been incredibly focused on my life path recently, and I have found that this has helped me just to really, really think about it and have it at the forefront of my mind. You know, what am I doing at the moment? What am I doing today that contributes to my life path? I found that it does help with mind clearing, but in that way that I've just described, as a very straight to one point, and that's it. Which it can slightly block, I found, the sort of thoughts that can be important if you're having a creative process. Yeah, it is good for focus. So yeah, pros and cons with that one. It can also clear energy blockages, and I think of it a little bit like a drain cleaner. It's going to shift the blockage, but it's going to shift it by shifting everything rather than, you know, it's not going to be choosy, basically. It's just going to go blockage, bam, and that's it. So yes, my experiences with that have been really positive, and quite unexpectedly so, actually, because I was a man-made crystal snob. In a way, I still am a little bit, although it's changed my mind. I think I wouldn't go out my way to buy them, but having had that one come into my life, it's been a really important part of the work that I've been doing. Now, the third one is Purple Agate, and if I can hold it up there, you might be able to see the banding. I'm so sorry the camera's so awful today. Yeah, I'm still not sure why that is. So yes. Now, agate in itself is grounding stone. It can build energy as well as grounding you. I found it incredibly balancing, and it really has helped my mind and body connect more, and even my sort of soul, mind, body just work that little bit more together. It can help with vision and insight, and I find that again it can help me focus, but through the grounding properties, really. It can also really help with allowing your spiritual self to come forward and you to be comfortable with your spiritual self. Again, it's really an integration of your spiritual self into everyday life, which is so important. And I see witchcraft as an incredibly spiritual thing. You know, we work with spirits all the time. We we are we are the weavers of fate. You know, we work with energy. So it's an incredibly spiritual thing, really. And the purple agate can just help your spiritual self to be that bit stronger within you. It can also help with spiritual transformation, and I've been going through a very transformative period of my life. I suppose really over this last year, and there have been some really tough times. And I would say it's been a really good stone to rely upon for that. It can help with mental function. Now I have memory problems, so any help with mental function is fantastic. And it also helps with dreams. And again, I feel like dreams and journeying and things are so interlinked, really, or can be, certainly. And so again, I found it very useful for both. I suppose magically is where I would see the difference, rather than the properties of the stones themselves. It's where you harness, you know, which aspect you harness from the crystal or stone that you're working with, and also what else you bring into play. So, you know, if I want to dream, do I make myself a dream pillow and place it on top or underneath it? Do I hold it and yet have my head on the dream pillow and whisper a chant beforehand that brings me into the dream world, you know? Or with journeying, do I speak to the stone and ask it to help me journey? Do I use, you know, do I use breath work alongside it and use it as a focal point, perhaps? Do I use it to dance around? You know, all of these things come into play. So it is important to note that, yes. Oh, one moment. But apologies for that. My husband just got home. So yes, I think it's really important to note that all of these properties are available. And some stones will be better at different things than others. And you will be able to feel that, and you'll learn as you work with that particular stone. But it's really about magically harnessing things in order to bring out those properties and using them in combination with that, rather than just plonking it next to you and expecting it to do something. I hope that makes sense. So yes, those are the three crystals, and I've been really carrying those around in my pocket for a while now. Now, this is very exciting. I have been wanting a knife to use in ritual, and I recently saved and purchased one from James Back. Now I'm going to put his details, his Etsy shop link in the box below. His work is absolutely fantastic, and there is so much heart that goes into it. He's brilliant with communicating with you during the purchase. I really only have very positive things to say. This was a custom order, and I'm planning to actually customize these myself as time goes on. The knife is cherry wood and bone. Now, I wanted something which, gosh, the light is really so bad, isn't it? It's slightly paler, slightly more amber in colour than it's showing up. It's showing up with a very red tint, and it's actually more amber. But yes, so I wanted something that I was able to use magically and also use in everyday life. I wanted something where I could use it in a ritual to cut food, to do things, to perform, and it really fits the bill. And I have very small hands. I'm not sure you can tell that, but yeah, I don't know if you can see how small they are. But so I really wanted something that was slender and elegant and feminine at the same time as holding a masculine energy. Now, cherry wood is a masculine wood, or often depicted as a masculine wood. It's mainly connected to earth, but has also been connected to water. The main gods that it seems to be connected with are Cernunnos and Herne, Ares, Athena. It's a powerful wood. For me, there's almost a fire feeling to it. Actually, it's yeah, it's incredibly powerful. It can be used for hunting, and I really wanted something which I felt confident with the protection aspect of it. So something where if I needed to attack within magic and go on the offensive, this would be able to stand up to it. It is useful for stabilizing and focusing, always something which is useful within ritual and spell work, as well as journeying, and any other magic really. It can also be linked to love magic, to sex magic, and to fertility. Now, obviously, as someone who is looking to have more children in the future, once I'm recovered, or much better anyway, I wanted something which would work with me. And fertility is something that's incredibly important to me. The last thing that it's incredibly good at is amplifying spell work. Now, it feels perfect to hold. It's a literal extension of my arm. We have danced together within ritual, and I can't. It's indescribable. The power that it gives, and the power that it puts in. It puts in its own twist on things, really. So you cast a spell, and your own power is within that spell, and you have that signature. But you use a tool, and their power adds into it. So it's almost like, yeah, a booster, but a booster of a power that's not your own, a booster of a power that you cannot add. Because I have a lot of feminine energy and not really very much masculine energy at all, to me. So I did want something that would almost balance me out a little. I'm a Libra, so balance is very important to me. And yeah, that was something that I considered deeply. I totally recommend James Back, totally and completely, if anyone is looking for or interested in knives. He's incredibly good at making all sorts of different things, so his shop is worth a look, and he will also do custom orders. I found the process relatively fast, especially considering how beautiful the outcome was. Now, I wanted to go for a wood that grew, because he's in America. I also wanted to go for a wood that would be found in England, and or Ireland, because obviously that's where my practice is rooted. And that was also a consideration with cherry wood. And it's because of its links to immortality within folklore and myth. I felt that despite it not being something like apple, which was a definite representation, or elder perhaps, which is obviously a representation of fae folk energy, alongside Rowan, I felt that link was still there, really. You know, the fair folk love sweet berries, and fruits, and because of those links to immortality, there was still that Tirnanog feel, though it's rarely mentioned in Irish myth, not so much English either. Hugely, there is folklore about it, but it's not a main focus of it. I'll be back in 1 moment. Sorry, had a cat crisis. Now another thing that I've been using a lot is ginger root. And yeah, I've been making it into a tea really, which I often do in winter. I simply sort of chop it up finely and boil it, steep it in water, or I make it into a decoction where I simply boil it for a longer period of time really. I give it to my son and my husband, although my son's not keen on it because of the spice. But when I give it to those two, I add a little honey to sweeten it. But for myself, I don't feel the need to add honey. It's obviously known as a great immunity booster, and is really good for soothing colds. I found that it can be quite comforting feel, you know, that hearth fire feel, which also sort of warms you if you're feeling that sort of damp, shivery, cold feel. It's an anti-inflammatory, and I work with a lot of anti-inflammatories because I have sciatic nerve pain as well, where some of my nerves and muscles become inflamed. Also with my nerve pain, I have a sort of strange inflammatory reaction where my heat and cold systems don't quite work together. So yes, brilliant for that, and another great use for it. Obviously, it's also known for stomach, soothing nausea really, and helping stomach pain. So yeah, that an important note for that one is overuse of it can make your stomach worse and cause indigestion. So you want to use a sensible amount of it, basically. There are also indicators that it can aid high cholesterol and help to lower that, help with blood clots, and also even have some anti-cancer properties. I think with the deterioration of antibiotic treatment that's going on at the moment, where antibiotics are essentially stopping their effectiveness or losing their effectiveness, things like ginger, calendula are going to be much more important moving forward for use in tonics and treating colds, and a campaign as well, things like that really. Now some say that magically ginger is grounding because obviously it is a root. However, I actually feel that there's a lot of fire within ginger, and so I would personally associate it more with the fire, and therefore would use it more for sex and love, magic, for luck, adding cinnamon probably. You could do a luck sachet, but you could also drink tea for luck. You could drink things for luck before you go to somewhere where you're going to need luck. Or a very powerful protective charm is a ginger root which is formed in the shape of a person. I haven't got one yet. I'm still searching. I sort of had one the other day, but I didn't feel that it was quite person-y enough, if you know what I mean. I was a bit like, well, on the edge, not quite there yet. So yeah, if you ever get a ginger that looks like a human, sort of a figure shape, then dry it and keep it because it's a very powerful protective charm. Similar to the mandrake in that way. Now, it can be used to enhance power. You can eat some ginger before working a spell. You could add ginger to a spell in order to speed things up, or even give them that extra boost really. I use it a lot for raising energy, for confidence, giving inner confidence, for boosting mood actually as well. And if you're going to make a protection sachet with it, then cloves could be a really good mix, or if you're drinking a tea for protection, again, cloves can be a good mix with it. So yes, ginger root using a lot. If you want any more info on stuff like that, or protection magic, then let me know. The last things that I have been using a lot, again, I will include links to these. This is a white sage smudge spray, which I also got in one of my moon boxes. It's from Molly with Love, the brand, and it's gorgeous. It has a very gentle smell. I believe it may... Let's have a look. So, yes, it's quartz infused. It's got witch hazel, clary sage, which is very important. Clary sage is very important to me. It's got Reiki charge, pink Himalayan sea salt. Obviously the white sage, lemon, rose. Now, I found it incredibly helpful. Recently I had to go travelling at very short notice. When I go travelling, I like to take a few witchy bits with me, of course, because I can perform magic without them. But it's nice to have them there, particularly when, you know, as a family, if you're all sharing one room and you're around relatives, we all know that that can sometimes get a bit, well, moods can set in, can't they, when, you know, you're lacking sleep and all sorts. So I found this an absolutely invaluable tool, really, for just clearing the air. I used it to sort of smudge myself. I used it to smudge the room. I used it a little bit while I was at the house. Because we were visiting someone who was ill as well, it was incredibly, you know, the emotions were running high and deep as well. So yes, that's been really useful. I also find it useful for just quickly clearing some space if I want to do something very fast. If I'm feeling that sort of negative, frustrated, naggy mood, then I'll use some of this, and yeah, that has been helpful. I don't use it just before spirit work or journeying. Personally, I simply don't use salt. I don't use salt very often, actually, at all, which I know many people would disagree with, but I've personally found that when I work with spirits, it can put them off, and I have much more success if I stay away from salt around the time that I'm journeying. And the last thing, this really fits into the integrating the witch thing again. It's Bohemian Spice Body Oil by Angel Face Botanics. Now, this came in my other moon box, the large one. This is from the moon box which Avalon gets, if you have watched Avalon, who also receives it. And it's just a real, it's that orangey, just spice orange. I found that it really opens the doors to the wits. And I suppose orange is a way clearer. It clears a way for things to come through. And I must look up what's in this. But going from scent, I would say it's got some orange in. And yeah, I found it really helpful for just clearing the way to have my inner witch come through and just give me that reminder of my power all the day through, really. So yeah, I'll leave a link for that below, but it is sensuous. So give it a go. Right, it's been really lovely talking to you guys. I better get on and make my little one some lunch. So I love you lots, and I will speak again very soon. I'll probably do a favourite cards coming into the new year. Tarot and Oracle, I didn't include them because I felt the video would just be too long. And I've also got some poetry which I'm wondering whether to share. So if you'd like to hear some poetry that's witch related, then let me know. Bye guys.